Tonight I'm on the campus of Emory University, and hopefully I'm going to meet Andrew Young.
He is a civil rights icon, a former Georgia congressman, a former ambassador to the United Nations, and a former, perhaps the most transformative mayor that Atlanta has ever known. And I see a lot of people nodding their heads, so you all know what I'm talking about. Today, Ambassador Young leads the Andrew J. Young Foundation, leads the efforts to develop and support new generations of visionary leadership, paying special attention to sustainable global approaches to dealing with things like chronic poverty, economic development, and poverty alleviation. The foundation also does a lot of work in terms of looking at the scourge of hunger and how we alleviate the scourge of hunger in this country. Andrew Young has been a good friend to Emory. He received an honorary degree from Emory in 1991. He gave Emory's 2019 commencement address, and he received the President's Medal, both in 2019. We are also grateful to have Ernie Suggs with us. Ernie has been a reporter with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution since 1997. He currently covers issues regarding race and culture, and he is the author of the book that we are here to celebrate tonight, The Many Lives of Andrew Young. So, just so everyone knows, the book is for sale tonight by Emory's Barnes & Noble. So if you don't have your copy yet, I would encourage everyone to get your copy before you leave tonight. And Ambassador Young and Ernie Suggs have also graciously agreed to sign some books for us following our program. So that will be a real treat and certainly a collector's item that you want to have for your own private libraries. We are fortunate to host our guests earlier this evening in the Rose Library, where they viewed items from our African American historical collections, and that included some of the photos that you will see here tonight. So I invite all of you, when time permits, to stop by the Rose Library and to avail yourselves of what are some outstanding historical collections.
Because he talked funny, I didn't pay any attention to him. And it wasn't until, and then I made the mistake of asking him, I said, the only thing I know about Sumter County is Sheriff Fred Chappell. He was the sheriff that put everybody in jail at Albany, Georgia. He said, oh yeah, Fred Chappell's a friend of mine. Well, Martin Luther King had said that Fred Chappell was the meanest man in the world. So I had to get over my prejudices, see, to understand his point of view. And the amazing thing about him was that he could be my friend and agree and argue and disagree with me, but he could also get along with people like Fred Chappell. And that's one of the reasons why we survive as a nation, because, I don't know, you all know who said it, but Dr. King quoted it. Greatness is characterized by antitheses strongly marked. You've got to have a tough mind and a tender heart. And he said that about Jimmy Carter. And he never knew Jimmy Carter that well, but he saw in him that tough-mindedness and that tender-heartedness. Now, I'm saying that I am not worried about this country. I know, and here's why. When Fred Shuttlesworth came to see us in December 17th, 1962, he came from Birmingham, where his church had been bombed for the third time. But not once was that in the paper here in Atlanta. That was Birmingham. But also there had been 60 bombings of black people's homes. The veterans coming back from the military got jobs with U.S. Steel in Birmingham, and they were building some nice, nothing fancy, not even brick, but they had nice little frame homes with some azaleas and some roses, and they had grass and a little picket fence, and they were trying to clean up their lives. And the Klan types in Birmingham bombed their homes, 60 different homes. Now, I know it's bad now, but I never had to watch one of those homes burn. We had to watch George Floyd for 9 minutes and 41 seconds. I can't forget the little girl from Vietnam on the cover of Time of Life magazine, the little girl crying nude, walking down the street. I think that picture did more to end the war in Vietnam than even some of Dr. King's sermons. And so things are bad, but they're always bad. They're always bad somewhere, somehow. I don't want to be hard on you, but whenever I get a little think that everybody else is going to hell in a handbasket, I realize I'm just barely making it. See, and if I can do a little better, maybe I can help them do a little better. But again, quoting Martin Luther King, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Of course, if you vote, if you get educated, if you save your money and invest in right things, it'll bend quicker toward justice. No job in the world any better than being mayor of Atlanta. Now, I don't mean being mayor of New York or being mayor of California, Los Angeles, or San Francisco. But there was something special about this place. And I think it was that it was all potential. Okay. The first time I flew into Atlanta, the airport wasn't as big as this. It was a Quonset hut. Yes, it was. It was a Quonset hut, and that was about half the size of this room. And they had 3 little Southern Airways DC-3s with only 3 planes there. They didn't have a hot dog stand in the airport. You could buy, and they had, machines. You could buy a candy bar or something out of that. But it was Atlanta. And I guess the best thing that happened to me was to come back here. Okay.
I have read your quote. One of the principles of nonviolence is that you leave your opponents whole and better off than you found them. What inspired you to pursue this method of bringing about equality and change?
Well, growing up in that neighborhood, you see, we were outnumbered 10-to-1, black and white, and we were not the biggest in the neighborhood, and so I could fight, and I might win sometimes, but most of the time, people would gang up on me and I'd get beat up. So I had to start using my head. And I didn't have to fight, and I didn't get beat up. But you know, and you don't have to go around trying to convert them. You know, leave them alone, and hope they leave you alone. But if they do mess with you, don't ever get angry. Don't get mad, get smart. If you lose your temper in a fight, you're gonna lose the fight. So he said, your mind is your most powerful weapon. And as long as you're thinking, you can figure things out better than you can if you get emotional. See, he said, that's true of everything. And don't ever let your mind get turned off and get flustered. See? And so that's a perfect formula for going to the UN. I mean, and I was just 4. But he took me, and again, we had the Olympics here. You know why? Because my daddy took me to see the Olympics in a segregated Orpheum Theater in New Orleans when I was 4, in 1936. I went there and I saw Jesse Owens, and when Jesse Owens won the 100-meter dash, Hitler was supposed to present him with his medal. And instead, Hitler got up and walked out and took all of his black-shirted stormtroopers with him. And that was an insult to Jesse Owens. And my father said, but wait a minute. Watch what Jesse does. I said, he's not doing anything. He said, he's not paying any attention to Hitler. His problem, he's got 3 more races to run. So he's thinking about the 3 more races to run. Hitler's got his problem with the fact that a black man won the 100-meter dash. But he got nothing to do with that. He just got to go win these 3 more races, which he did. And he said, that's the way you deal with racism. You ignore it.
Here we are after this talk, and everyone is lined up to have a book signing. Young people, old people, people that have worked with him, some students, a lot not. Just signatures, that's all.
Are you a professor here, or you're a medical doctor, or you're a professor here?
Yes, I'm a professor.
Oh, what do you teach?
History.
Oh.
What kind of history?
African American, 20th century South. History.
Okay.
Good for you.
Like,
I'm writing a book about Atlanta as the Black Mecca.
Really?
About gender and sex.
Send me your number.
gender and sex. Okay.
I could.
I know a lot about gender, but
Not as much about that other
I'm
thing.
too old to know much about sex. Black journalists. In fact, it was the National Council of Black Journalists. They were having their convention here. And I said...
In 94 or 2000?
Way back, yeah. It must have been 94.
Trina?
And I said that I had, Mondale was running, and I had met a group of United Auto Workers from Minnesota. And I told them, I said, you all better get on to your boy Fritz. I said, he doesn't have anything to do with us anymore. And he can't win without us. And you. He said he can't win without us.
Okay.
Right.
Either.
Oh, okay. Did I sign too much?
And he said, well, I was on my way to speak to this black journalist group. And I said, this is not a white party or a black party. We have to pull together as many people as possible. I said, and you black intellectuals can't sit back and let these smart-ass white boys make all the decisions.
It took a life of its own.
Well, the guy who, he had a shop at Atlantic Square, and he made SAWB cups, and he started selling them during the convention.
That's hilarious.
Outstanding.
That's great.